does it become not just a lesser evil, but like...
The lesser evil argument is so stupid because it implies that there is a perfect candidate that you ought to vote for. The most defining factor of our country is the fact that so many different types of people live here, but we all have to come together under a common set of rules and laws. And that is incredibly difficult because rules and laws are downstream from incredibly personal things like preferences and morals and ethics, right? It's very, 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 very hard to agree on these things.
People who are refusing to acknowledge reality, and they'd rather narrative hump all day talking about Democrats are so bad, Democrats are so bad, Democrats are so bad, but oh yeah, I'm a leftist.
Oh my God. Hello? Kyle-based Linsky? What did Krystal do to this man? Look at how mad she is. Was she not expecting this much pushback?
We're going to discuss Cornel West's campaign and everything around that. And I just want everybody in the audience to know, because I don't know if we've said this publicly before, that like he's been invited on multiple times and he just hasn't come on yet. And you know, this goes all the way back to when he launched. We invited him on. He hasn't come on yet. You know, will he eventually? I don't know. You know, it's up to him. Ball's in his court.
Balls.
And we had him on before.
We had him on before. Yeah, before he announced his campaign. I mean, we're going back to when the People's Party thing launched.
Right.
We invited him on all the way back then too, and just haven't heard back or anything. But I just don't want people to think we're debating Cornel West, but like Krystal and Kyle are refusing to talk to Cornel West. We'd love to talk to Cornel West. We want to have him, you know, we'd love to have him on at any point in time to discuss anything and everything. In New York, I'm in a safe state. So would I vote for Cornel West in New York? Yes, because I have a 95% agreement with him on policy. And I think it would be nice to get the Green Party in a position where if they become more viable because we get ranked choice voting or something, it'd be nice to grow their popularity a little bit. And when we get ranked choice voting, I think they kind of automatically become a lot more viable. So I'd like to help out in that process. But if I'm in a swing state and it's Biden versus Trump, I'm at the point now where I don't even think it's a tough call. I would definitely vote.
Can I just say that... Clip it.
If young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot you. Beautiful morning.
Clip it. Okay? Can I just say that I absolutely fucking adore that he married his two positions in a super coherent way. That if it's a state where you don't think the Republican has a shot in winning, vote for another person, throw your vote at a third-party candidate, helps them get funding, helps them get on ballots, helps you make your voice heard. But if it's a state where the election is close and it really matters, probably vote for the guy that has a chance of winning. That is such a mature and politically efficacious way to marry your idealized position of giving third-party candidates a chance while still remaining realistic about electoral outcomes. Destiny, he actually held that position since 2016. I distinctly remember listening to him say, I think he said, somebody can find the clip if I'm wrong. I think he said, I could be wrong. I think he said, like, I'm in New York or something, so I'm going to vote random anyway because it doesn't matter, but I can't recommend to my audience that they vote for Biden. I feel like I heard him say that explicitly. Could be wrong. You can go find the quote, but I think this is one of my biggest criticisms. I thought I heard him say that specifically, that I can't recommend to my audience that they vote for Biden, and I'm voting third party. But that's what I remember hearing, but I could be wrong.
Vote for Biden because either in that situation, even if other people are running, either the Democrat or the Republican is going to win. And in my estimation, Biden has definitely passed what I would describe as my bare minimum purity test. And I think if it's him or Trump, or even him or DeSantis or anybody, he just blows them out of the water. And so I think I'd happily vote for Biden in that instance. Your response?
So I similarly was voting for Jill Stein.
Oh, God. Okay, cool. Nice. Good. Great. That's a perfect position. Perfectly good. Nice. Okay.
In New York in 2016.
I did the same.
And I also happen to believe that strategically it makes the most sense to apply pressure to the Democratic Party by voting for not Biden in a primary.
Oh, no. Wait, what? Green Party candidate Cornel West owes more than $500,000 in taxes and child support. Okay. I don't like this headline. Taxes and child support? What's the separation here? The delineation. Okay, I have to make sure that word fit there correctly. Because like if he owes like $1,000 in child support and $499,000 in taxes, that's one thing. But if he owes like $300,000 in taxes and $200,000 in child support, woo! He owes $466,000 in federal income tax from 2013. He accrued a debt of $750,000. Jesus. Oh, and he owes an outstanding $50,000 child support judgment from 2003. I mean, like, obviously he should pay it, but this is a 20-year-old judgment. The average U.S. child support obligation is about $5,800 per year. Oh.
Marianne Williamson is obviously the most progressive candidate in the primary, and then vote for Cornel West in the general. And I know there are a lot of people in my audience who are frustrated by that plan.
When do you get the time to pray if you stream all day? Well, every time I throw up a Be Right Back screen, that's typically what I'm doing. I'm usually going off to pray. I probably only pray like 3 or 4 times a day. I should do more, but yeah, of course.
They think that it takes something away from Cornel West's run, or it affirms the Democratic Party in some way to vote for Marianne Williamson running as a Democrat. I don't feel that way. I feel it's a little hypocritical to have that position, given that we all just enthusiastically voted for Bernie twice in the primary the last 2 rounds. You can make a distinction saying that Bernie was an independent, and he always identified as an independent, and Marianne Williamson doesn't have that kind of cloak of distance from the Democratic Party. You can say what you want. I don't see those things as mutually exclusive in the least. So that is also my plan. I differ from you only insofar as that I would say it's a more difficult choice in a swing state to decide what you're going to do. But I frankly respect people who feel comfortable. It has not been something that I have to contend with, but I respect people who feel comfortable voting third party even in swing states.
No respect. Negative respect. You're the worst and most privileged type of wealthy, insulated from society's problems type of person that you can possibly be if you would want to vote on a 100% losing candidate just because I don't even know why.
The reason is this, and it goes back to that early bad faith viral Noam Chomsky interview, in which I asked him about a month before the 2020 race. Look, I said, I take your point. Let's say Trump is an existential threat. Let's say that he's a unique threat among all Republican candidates. My concern is that every year, because we all vote for blue no matter who, because most Democrats vote blue no matter who, or most left-leaning people do, the message that gets sent out is that Democrats don't have a bar. You can go as low as you want, as close to the Democratic Party as you, Republican Party as you want, and there's a ratchet to the right effect. And Republicans know that they can keep being more and more extreme. And so I want you to explain to me what you predict to be the stopping point at which we're no longer saying this new Republican is the worst that has ever happened. This new Republican is the worst that has ever happened. Tell me you're not going to be saying the same thing about Ron DeSantis or Vivek Ramaswamy or whatever other person comes down the pike. And he was unable, in my subjective view, to respond credibly to that claim. So if somebody could tell me strategically what the stopping point is going to be of making this argument of the lesser of two evils, I would be open to the idea that, okay, this is the last one. Donald Trump, fine. He tried to steal the election, fine. That is a new line that he has crossed. But absent an acknowledgement that we are creating our own destiny by lowering the bar in these ways,
okay, hold on.
I'm not comfortable coming out and criticizing anybody who no longer wants to be complicit.
I see you guys are posting Ayla in chat, but unfortunately you guys also f***ing unhingedly hate Ayla too, so why would I take your opinions on anything she says seriously? So, boom.
In that kind of a system that's enabled the Democratic Party to not have a primary, treat Marianne Williamson as badly as they've treated her, treat Bernie Sanders as badly as they treated him, and openly come out and say they don't have to hold a free, fair election. The DNC argued that in court, you know?
So let me explain a little bit of my position. I think that'll help respond to some of what you said there. And I'm also curious to dig in a little bit more to your analysis of how the Biden administration has actually been in reality. So last election in 2020, I did live in a swing state. I lived in Virginia, still live in Virginia, registered in Virginia. And it did not feel good to vote for Joe Biden. But I decided to vote for Joe Biden, which is something I said publicly at the time. But I said something very similar to you, which is like, listen, this was not easy for me. If you, wherever you live, swing state, not swing state, et cetera, you do whatever you analyze is the right thing to do. And the reason that I voted for him primarily at that time, even though I thought he had an atrocious record in the Senate, even though, complicit in the Iraq War, complicit in bad trade deals, complicit, like terrible things on crime, all that stuff, right? The primary reason I voted for him was because of the National Labor Relations Board. And because labor politics and building out union power in this country, to me, is one of the most important goals, and something that I think we all share and leftists generally believe. Now, in retrospect, not only do I feel good about that vote, he's actually surprised me. Now, I've got all kinds of issues, right? On the National Labor Relations Board, though, specifically, they just issued a ruling which could be a complete game changer for unions. And just to explain to people a little bit, basically, in the past, bosses could union bust with impunity, no accountability. Now, the process going forward is completely changed. If bosses are caught union busting, then that's it. There's no more election. It's canceled. They have to recognize the union and start bargaining with them. That's the biggest shift in labor relations we've had in our lifetime. So that's why at this point, I'm not only, it's likely to, I'm a Marianne supporter as well, but we can all see the most likely outcome is it's going to be Trump versus Biden. Not only would I say that protecting the Biden National Labor Relations Board isn't important enough for me to vote for Joe Biden, but it is important enough that I would actively encourage, but I'm not going to shame them for whatever they decide to do, but I would actively encourage people who are in a swing state to vote for Joe Biden, if for no other reason than to protect that board.
Do you have any big plans before the year ends? Trips, etc.
The one... I'm going to fuck your mom.
And I had this conversation on my podcast.
Oh, sorry, this is not on screen. Mom jokes are never going away.
In the last episode.
Never mind. I'll reduce your mom jokes by 72%. Okay.
And there were people who would characterize that position as, I mean, you've heard the thing. You've been on the internet. Being too credulous about Biden, or, being too comfortable in one's own position in life and not needing enough change and being happy with the status quo. People will say things like that. I think actually that if your priority, if you believe the path to meaningful change is going to primarily come through a kind of, I don't say this dismissively, but a kind of labor incrementalism, meaning there are
incremental change is how change is made. Okay?
Meaningful labor gains that happen.
Like, she doesn't care about incremental change because it's not sexy and cool and fun. She just wants like a revolution.
Are not the type of which would radically transform the system the way that some people want to happen in a shorter term. That there are people for whom, even as significant as those labor gains are, it's simply insufficient. And what they see when they look at the trajectory of the last 50, 60 years of Democratic Party politics, when they read Listen Liberal and see the longer game the Democratic Party making a concerted choice to back away from labor in a way that has gone on for decades and isn't necessarily turning around as a consequence of Joe Biden having some good NLRB appointments.
So
let me actually,
and then I want to jump into it.
So number one, I don't think that in massively increasing union density, I actually don't see that as incremental change. I mean, if you look at the chart of the decline in the middle class and the decline of union density, you'd be hard pressed to find a more significant factor.
I made these arguments as well.
But the other piece is, I feel like those same people who are right about the Democratic Party, they were right, right.
Oh my God, guys, I feel like it might be happening. I think a long time ago, somebody asked me, what's the next trend in internet politics? And this is back when the neoliberal subreddit on Reddit was booming. And I was like, maybe we'll make a small, little slide back towards kind of liberalism, maybe, or whatever the new age Reddit neoliberalism is. Either of those I think would be fine. Could it happen? Could it happen? Maybe.
About the analysis in Listen Liberal, right about the fact that you had, this free trade, bipartisan consensus, and in large part a union busting bipartisan consensus, also don't acknowledge that there actually has been.
Because I'll be honest, I didn't expect to hear Krystal Kulinski adamantly defend voting for Biden. I never expected to hear that. Krystal Ball, that's her name, right? Absolutely never expected to hear that. Never in a billion years. After watching her on, what was it, Waking Points or whatever the that show was, I never would have expected to hear that. So, maybe.
A notable shift.
No, wait, there's no way that's her name. Is it Krystal Ball? Wait, what the fuck is her name? Oh, is it Krystal Ball? Is it really Krystal Ball? Wait, it can't be Krystal Ball. There's no way. I feel like I would have. It is Krystal Ball? Wait, is it? No, that must be like a fake name. Wait, what? Okay, well.
In the Biden administration. Now, my big issue with the Biden administration, I mean, there's a million of them, right? On foreign policy, I've got problems. But my biggest issue economically with the Biden administration is the way they've allowed the pandemic relief, the short-term pandemic relief programs to fall away and leave a lot of ordinary Americans in a more precarious financial position now than they were at the beginning of the administration. And that's not nothing. But when I look at the long term, when I look at the fact that, listen, with the Inflation Reduction Act, with the CHIPS Act, with infrastructure investment, you're talking about industrial policy in a way that would have been completely unheard of in the Clinton-Obama era. When you look at not just the NLRB, which I said is like the core for me, but also his antitrust appointments and the fact they're really trying to reverse decades of neoliberal attack on any sort of trust busting, I feel like none of those improvements that have made Biden on that front way better than Obama, way better than Clinton, I just feel like there's no willingness to acknowledge any of that whatsoever.
True.
I don't think the issue is acknowledging it. It's how much it matters to you, how weighty that is to you, and how much you see those kind of meaningful, call them meaningful, improvements as really core to the nature of the project that you're on. And I think that what some people are frustrated by is that this went from feeling like, in both left media and left politics, a bigger revolutionary project that was going to the core of our capitalist system and wanting to radically...
Yes, and the problem is nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cared. It was a bunch of young people with a bunch of young energy and a bunch of bad ideas that didn't go anywhere. Similar kind of to what Trump had, but at least I guess the Republicans had more support for it. But yeah, there's a reason why the whole Bernie movement was dead in 2 years. That's why he kind of made a splash, I guess, when he tried to run again, but like, not really. Nobody cares. Like, Bernie's, like, that movement completely and totally died. All the excitement behind it, all the people behind it, it's gone, it's done, it's over.
Change the way that human lives are valued, what we consider to be the nature of our social safety net, what we believe to be the nature of what we consider to be human rights. And they wanted to join a movement that validated what many of us felt intrinsically, emotionally for most of our lives, that something in the milk very much wasn't clean. And Bernie came along and articulated that it was legitimate for us to be asking for something more. And so at this point, it does feel as though there has been a kind of a bait and switch. It's not that what you're describing isn't true or legitimate. And I said this on my podcast. If your priorities are what you have kind of articulated your priorities as being, I think it's a perfectly legitimate argument. But I have to hold space for the fact that for many people, it simply is inadequate.
Wait, can I respond?
Yeah,
let me jump in here. So my issue is that many people on the left are, I would say, dishonestly refusing to acknowledge any good things that were done. We could all on the left list, like, here's the 57 things we hate that Biden did. But when something good happens, I'm the only one talking about it, and then I get accused of being a DNC shit.
I like how he still has to caveat. You can tell where he's coming from, and you can see where he's going, right? But it's like, okay, hold on. I know Biden did a million. It's funny. They talk about Biden like how people on the left talk about me. Like, okay, I know that Destiny, like, killed my dog and ran over my cat and, like, killed my sister and everything, but on this one particular point, maybe he said something that I can kind of sort of, like, they talk about Biden the same way they talk about me. It's really funny. Jesus.
Yeah. Now, I'm not like, look, I'm not blind. I think in order to be intellectually honest, you have to look at, here's the good things that happen, here's the bad thing that happened, I'm going to give them all to you, and then you could judge how much you value each and which one you weigh more and how that factors into your, like, voting analysis. But I was like the poster boy back in the day, or people viewed me this way, as like, he's the purity tester. He's like the main purity tester guy. And I didn't vote for Biden in 2020 because I didn't think he would pass my purity test. Now, at the time,
so
people
I was
go
right.
back and watch the video. My purity test was super lenient. It was like, if I'm convinced you're going to do like 2 or 3 of the things that I value highly, then I would vote for you. Because I know it's basically down to just the Democrat and the Republican, no matter how much we want to wish the Green Party or Libertarians want to wish the Libertarian Party into existence. And so when I look at the record, again, I could list all the bad things, but she just mentioned the NLRB raising overtime pay, or you mentioned the thing where, you know, they automatically recognize the union if the bosses try to bust it up. There's also the overtime pay rule where now it's not $33,000, it's about $55,000 a year, where now you get overtime pay. That's a huge, huge change. Student loan debt reduction, and even Biden even coming back after the Supreme Court tried to slap it down, and he said, no, I'm going to try to do it through the Higher Education Act now. There's little things we could go after him. Oh, the interest rate. Yes, that's bad. I agree with you on that. But we got to recognize that that is, all things considered, a step in the right direction. Pulling out of Afghanistan, he actually had the balls to do it, even when the media was shitting on him relentlessly. And I didn't see anybody on the left coming into his defense at that point in time.
I saw a lot of people
I was like the only fucking one. It was like me and Matt Iglesias.
I definitely defended him.
Okay, well, then it's like 3 people. I didn't, and all these, oh, I'm so anti-war, anti-war. He pulls out of Afghanistan, and it gets messy, because that's what happens when you pull out of wars. And all of a sudden, oh my God, you know, it's the
I thought that was
end of the
actually
world.
a good moment for the left. I saw a lot of consensus. Good on you, because we almost resented and kind of were enjoying the extent to which he was getting, you know, dogpiled by the mainstream media, and we were the only ones defending him. So I would quibble with that a little bit. But
I didn't see much defending him. I really didn't.
Kyle, what people are responding to, if I can offer this, is not the idea that you are accurately describing advancements, good things that Joe Biden is doing. I think you could also say Obama did some good things.
No,
you know?
Biden is way better than Obama, not even close.
That's not the point I'm making. It's not that one is better than the other. You could also sit here and say Obama did good things. Now, the way you bristled at me saying that, I could say, oh, why won't you just acknowledge that Obama did good things? The same way that you're saying that leftists won't acknowledge, they bristle when you acknowledge that Biden did good things. And it's because we have different standards and we're making different kinds of comparisons.
But that's not my issue, because they're not even acknowledging the good things, is my point. I have a list of 47 things here, and I've heard nobody talk about any of them.
But let me get to the core of this point. The reason that people are frustrated with that kind of analysis is because it's been used for so long.
It's because it's not a revolution. I need full socialism. If I don't get full socialism, I don't care. That's the only thing we care about, is full socialism.
Long by liberals to justify why people shouldn't be asking for more. I'm not saying that that's what you're doing. But if you bring up something like student debt, when the consensus of all of the student debt experts that I've talked to on my podcast, people from the Debt Collective, the Asher Taylors of the world, the legal experts I've brought on, is that there was a path toward doing this, to canceling all student debt that would not have been stymied by the Supreme Court. The same authority that Donald Trump used to enact the student debt moratorium, which has been ongoing until beginning of this month for the last 3 years, was the same authority that he could have canceled all student debt with a stroke of a pen. He chose not to do that because he decided to means test the program. He circulated those documents. I got one in my inbox last August, I believe it was, to see if you qualify for student debt. It was a very easy form. But when he did that, that started the clock for people to be able to challenge it in court, which what 6 states did, 2 of them were successful, and now here we are today. Not only did he decline to do the unstoppable mechanism to actually cancel all student debt.
Unstoppable.
He additionally chose to use a legal authority, which when many legal experts said was the most vulnerable one. So you're now saying, well, he could have used the Higher Education Act.
He did. He did. He invoked it.
He could have done that in the first instance.
But he didn't, and now he tried it again through the Higher Education Act. The idea that it's like it's a conspiracy, he doesn't want to actually cancel it. No,
Thank you. God, this is such a brainlet take. Like the idea that like, well, actually, if Biden really wanted to, there was actually another way that he could have circumvented this, and he could have done it completely, but the reason why he's not is because he actually never actually wanted to, because Biden hates students, and Biden hates students, and Biden never wanted students. It's like, why? If Biden could just forgive a student loan debt, like, why would he not? We gave so much stimulus. Why would he not give more to students? Like, I don't know. It just seems silly. And like the idea that all of these other challenges, I haven't looked into them particularly, so maybe there is some novel fucking argument that I've never heard of before. But the idea that these ones would have magically survived, what the fuck are the purple power slugs? The idea that these ones would have survived like every Supreme Court challenge, but like he just happened to choose the one that didn't intentionally because he knew it wouldn't. It was just like
appealed the case like 4 or 5 times, and then at the end of it, when the Supreme Court said no, you can't do that, he said, "F you, I can," and he did the Higher Education Act. That's exactly what we wanted him to do. Then he does it, and people go, "Oh, that's not good enough." And it's like, that's ridiculous.
There, Kyle. What we wanted him to do was first and foremost just cancel the student debt.
I expected him to do nothing on student debt. This is the point I'm trying to get across to you: is that I expected nothing from Biden, and he did way more than I expected. Let's be honest about that.
It's not about your expectations. We have different expectations.
Of course, I'm going to talk about it through my expectations. I'm me.
But I want to pivot this conversation a little bit, because what we really have is a tactical disagreement. We could quibble about student loan debt. We could quibble about all kinds of aspects of the Biden administration. All of us would like him to do more. There's no doubt about that. But hold on a second. Our political aims are ultimately very similar. But I do think the student loan debt example is instructive because it shows what has been effective in terms of securing real gains versus what has been ineffective. Jill Stein running in 2016, I don't think she was a spoiler, but the Democratic Party thinks she was a spoiler. They put that out to the public. So in the theory of change where a third party would force all of this revolutionary change on the Democratic Party, that should have worked. But instead, it served to allow the Democratic Party to basically demonize and dismiss third party efforts, and then they prop up Joe Biden. So that definitely didn't work. However, the fact that Joe Biden had to be on a primary debate stage versus Bernie and Marianne and a whole lot of Elizabeth Warren, a whole lot of other people who were pushing him on student loan debt cancellation, forced him into a position of doing something when he 100% would have done nothing otherwise. And we can see that now because
the world is healing, okay? This is a good analysis, too, of the importance of and why. Now, I don't want to say I hate third parties or we shouldn't have third parties, but you can argue that in the American political system, third parties aren't necessarily necessary because your candidates within a party can actually cause a pretty substantial shift in political opinion within a single party. A really good example of this might be what she just said here, where multiple candidates pushing Biden on student loan forgiveness. Or another great example is I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton wasn't a big 15 an hour minimum wage person, but Bernie Sanders pushed her on that and I think got her to basically commit to 15 an hour on stage, even if it's a bad policy and even if it's never going to happen. So even within a party, you can cause pretty substantial movements from the mainstream candidates from smaller candidates within the party that represent, margins further to the left or right. But yeah.
The fact that they've basically blocked any sort of real democratic process within the Democratic primary has made it possible for him to literally promise nothing for this next term thus far. So you can see how the third party effort was not successful in bringing about whatever revolutionary change people want to see. And the process that Bernie engaged in and that Marianne Williamson is engaging in now was far more effective in actually delivering results. And that's what I'm focused on.
So first of all, you, I think, are both fundamentally, dramatically overestimating and overstating and giving way too much credit in that you can make your labor point, the student debt point, absolutely not. Joe Biden promised and coerced people to the polls by saying he was going to cancel.
Coerced people.
At least $10,000 of everybody's student loan debt, and moreover, cancel all student loan debt for graduates.
Wow, Brian, thanks for subbing. Destiny, do you think Briahna basically wants a Trump from the left? A little bit, yeah. She's very populist leaning, yeah.
Of HBCUs. And he went down to Georgia, a state that he not only needed to win for the presidency, but needed to win for the Senate, and where there are 3 of the major HBCUs in the United States of America, made that promise, and people knocked doors and turned people out to the polls on the basis of that promise, which he immediately stopped talking about the second he got elected and reneged upon. He also knew the authority that he had to cancel all student debt. And I know because all of these student debt advocates have been talking about how they were directly liaising with his office and communicating these points, and they chose to ignore them and do a plan that he knew could be obstructed. You can say it's not a conspiracy theory, that's conspiratorial thinking, but it's either a conspiracy or he's an idiot. Those are the options.
So and she literally thinks that it was all intentional, I guess. Okay.
Not especially comfortable in validating either of those things. Now, you were saying that you were looking through the prism of your own perspective.
No, I was saying I expected nothing from him, like we all expected nothing from him.
Absolutely not. The people that he promised.
I expected nothing from him.
Wait a minute.
I expected nothing of Joe Biden. He was the guy who brought us NAFTA. He's the guy who brought us the Iraq War. He's the guy who wrote the Patriot Act, who wrote the crime bill. I expected nothing of him.
When a presidential candidate makes a promise to people and lies to them in order to get them to go to the polls.
I hate this crude. This is a Lav argument. He lied. Did he lie? Your problem, Lav, is you are assuming that Chaeiry is just fucking lying. Okay? Now it could be.
Just lie. She did just lie.
Saying something that is not true is not the same as lying. Do you understand that?
No. No, I don't.
Okay, sure. Let me explain. No, stop. No, stop. I don't. Stop. Okay. A lie implies intent. Okay? If I tell you I'm going to be home by 5, yes, it does, you dumb bitch. Do you think that if he had the opportunity to cancel student loan debt, you don't think he would have? Do you really, truly, 1,000,000% believe that this is a bold-faced lie? Seriously?
I believe that it's my job as a member of independent media to make it clear so that people don't fall for those kinds of mistakes going forward. People, if Biden wants to run as I'm a milquetoast incrementalist who's just better than Trump, he can feel free to do that all day and night, and then he would have lived up to the expectations that he set for himself in the context of a primary campaign.
He did run as a milquetoast.
He promised to cancel all student debt for every graduate of an HBCU and $10,000 to $20,000 of student debt for people who earn less than $125,000 a year. Now, that might not matter to you, and I defend you guys against claims that, you don't care about this stuff because, you're out of touch and it doesn't affect you in material. I think that some of those claims get really silly and overly personalized. But Biden made a choice to tell 44 million Americans who have student debt that he was not only going to not fulfill his promise to them, but that in the middle of the debt ceiling argument of a couple of months ago, the one thing that he was going to bargain
Destiny, do
away
you think Hassan
to get
being
the debt
overtaxed
ceiling
in Mexico would make him switch political side? Also, it's good to hear a push for third party to a degree.
No.
passed was ending the student loan moratorium. So now it's not me. I'm not the one in control of whoever votes. He has to make the case to those 44 million Americans who's he's starting their student debt up. That's right. Months
is
before
the plan stronger or weaker than what you expected? Because it's way stronger than what I expected.
Way weaker than what I expected.
I expected nothing from him on student debt. Nothing.
The real question, though, is we all want all of the debt to be canceled.
Duh. Yeah, of course.
What is the most likely path to get us there?
And it's not Joe Biden, obviously.
Hold on. But I don't see how Cornel West getting 5% of the vote and unintentionally helping to reelect Trump, that doesn't get us there at all.
Let's get into that. So for
whereas
two things.
if you have a primary contender actually able face-to-face to pressure him, we have seen the way that can potentially work.
Those things aren't mutually exclusive. So why is that an argument against Cornel West?
It doesn't have to be exclusive, but do you think that the project of defeating Trump is worthwhile at all? Because I would turn back on you. You asked the question, like, where's the bottom of the lesser evil question? Like, where does that end? I would turn it back on you and say, where does it become not just a lesser evil, but like, actually, this person is significant.
The lesser evil argument is so stupid because it implies that there is a perfect candidate that you ought to vote for. I'm sorry, but politics in the adult world is all about compromise. We live in the United States, and honestly, the most defining factor of our country is the fact that so many different types of people live here, but we all have to come together under a common set of rules and laws. And that is incredibly difficult because rules and laws are downstream from incredibly personal things like preferences and morals and ethics, right? It's very, 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 very hard to agree on these things. I don't like the lesser of evil things because in any large election, you're almost always going to be voting for the lesser of two evils. Just necessarily so. That's almost always going to be the case. If it is going to be the case that there is a perfect candidate for you to vote for, like this is the one, I align with them and everything, then other people are going to be voting for him as a lesser of two evils in their eyes. That's just, I hate that phrase. It's so naive and it makes this incorrect assumption that we are entitled to, or we should expect in a democratic republic with so many different types of people, we should expect to have candidates that 100% fully coincide with the things that we believe. It's just such a silly phrase. Oh, it's raining.
Significantly better. And I would say that Biden, for my disappointments with him, for all of the things that I talk about plenty, including disappointments on student loan debt, including on the pandemic relief that I talked about, including on the railway, all these things, right? Ukraine. At what point, though, do you acknowledge that this person is a lot better than Donald Trump? And so when you're in this binary choice where let's not pretend like Cornel West is going to be president of the United States, it is worth making the choice in that situation to reelect Joe Biden and get the NLRB and get the antitrust stuff and get what is at hand to be gotten in this moment and live to fight another day.
So for one, Krystal, somebody might say, and people did make this exact argument against Bernie Sanders. Fine, he's on the stage, but I'm not going to vote for him. I'm not going to weaken the person who's ultimately obviously going to be the president of the United States. Why not vote for Biden in the primaries? Why? And you're wrinkling your brow because it's a ridiculous argument. I completely agree. I don't see the argument for Marianne and against Cornel West, they have nothing to do with each other. You can vote for Marianne in a primary. You can be happy that she's on the debate stage, which obviously they aren't allowing, which is material to this argument, I've got to say. Some people you're saying, what is the Green Party going to do? The Democratic Party has demonstrated that it won't host a free and fair and open primary.
Wait, I get that. But how does Cornel West getting 5% of the vote and helping unintentionally to re-elect Trump, how does that move us towards our goals?
So 2 things. One, you said this in the now viral clip, that just framing Cornel West as the spoiler, looking at those polls. In those polls that you referenced, Biden is losing in both of them, with or without Cornel West in the race. Now,
Cornel West makes it worse. I just want to clarify one thing.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming people or saying like it's their fault for Trump getting reelected or whatever. But I am saying we would like it if the way the Democratic Party responded to Cornel West would be to cancel all the student loan. But we know that's not reality.
So let's get
we know that what ought to happen and the reality of what will happen are two very different things.
Let's get to the second point.
Yeah.
You framed the 2016 votes for Jill Stein and the reaction of the Democratic Party subsequently as evidence that a concerted movement effort to withhold one's votes has been proven ineffective. It is obviously the case, Krystal, that there was not a concerted effort in 2016 or any kind of structural movement to withhold one's vote for Hillary Clinton in favor of Jill Stein. It was just a bunch of us angry Bernie bros. A very small number, by the way, because we all know sitting here that more Bernie Sanders voters in 2016 bent the knee and voted for Hillary Clinton than Hillary Clinton voters in 2008 bent the knee and voted for Barack Obama. We all know these statistics. We've been saying them back at neoliberals for the last 5, 6, whatever years. That being said, there was no argument to control the media narrative and present an opportunity for actual leverage and change. So there wasn't like a group, there was no spokesperson, there was no politician, there was no left media that was saying, here, I have a organized movement, an organized group of people who are willing to actually change their mind and vote for the Democratic nominee in exchange for various concessions.
I require you to remain skeptical.
I'm, by the way, not
That's the
advocating
benefit.
for it. I know that some of my friends like Nathan Robinson have said that Cornel West should do exactly that, say that he'd be willing to drop out in exchange for various concessions.
Okay?
I think that's better than nothing. I think that's more than, frankly, I love Marianne and I hope she's successful, but that's more than Marianne is likely to get out of this. However, that is not even my plan, that's my perspective.
Yeah.
What I am saying, though, is that knowing that the Democratic Party is fundamentally not willing to be fair. They're willing to rig the election. They're willing to change the order of the states. They are willing to completely block Marianne out of the media. It feels rich to say that running within the Democratic Party is manifestly and demonstrably more effective in actually changing the outcomes
of the structural barriers
than Cornel West, who at very least, you keep being very dismissive, Kyle, about this 5% matching fund.
First of all, I've said like 2 words in the past 10 minutes, okay? So I'm not being dismissive about anything. I haven't gotten a fucking word in.
Whoa!
Okay. What is it that you're chomping at the bit to say,
It's the structural barriers against running as a third party, as rigged as it is by the DNC against outsider Democrats, which it definitely is. It's even more rigged against third parties, which is why they always get like 3% of the vote.
Which is literally why.
Bernie got 43% of the vote.
Which is why I'm going to tell everybody on my YouTube channel to vote for a third party. Like your bro.
It is a structural advantage to get someone like Cornel West to 5% of the vote so they can get federal matching funds. To me, as a voter,
40% as a Democrat.
Federal matching funds is not the difference between these rando third party. What is the federal matching funds even? How much money do you get? Like, that's never going to be the difference between these people winning or losing or even getting that much more recognition.
For me, as a voter in New York, I'm not interested in shoring up the Democratic Party.
Shout out to Whitey Chat. They will always be the best chat.
I am not a Democrat.
Also,
I understand that. That's
presidential
very clear. But I'm saying that would shore up Cornel West.
And the people who also don't want to vote.
What are some policies you would like to implement that Joe Biden hasn't done? It's important to stand for something that isn't just a candidate as a political figure. I'm honest to God, I'm probably to the right of Biden on some economic issues. I think that like I feel like it would be interesting to somehow create a federal minimum wage that's pegged to like living standards in areas. I think that's not, I wouldn't call it like a living wage. I don't know if you should be able to support like a family of 4 on a single, but I think that would be one interesting thing. Doing something about healthcare. Now, Medicare, I believe, is getting the ability to negotiate drug prices, which is awesome. But doing something to move us closer to that would be good. Comprehensive immigration reform would be great, but nobody really gives a fuck about immigration right now. So amnesty, for instance, for the people here, figuring out an easier way to immigrate into the country for people not here, that would be amazing. I'm not a big fan of his like protectionist. Oh my God, is that a purple slug? Oh no, it's another one of these weird things. Yeah, I don't know, there's a lot of things, but.
For Joe Biden under any circumstances are not Democrats. And fundamentally, you can make your argument. I think it's a perfectly legitimate argument to make to Democrats. I think that Democrats might think that Joe Biden is a manifestly better Democrat than other Democrats.
But it's not about whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. It's about what are your political goals. And I think that
100%.
We share a lot of the same political goals.
There's a big one that we don't share.
But hold on. So I still don't understand. Just lay out for me.
Yeah.
What in the ideal scenario happens, and how does that constitute any sort of revolutionary change or help to further the goals that we largely share?
Yeah. I think, for one, getting federal matching funds for third-party candidates, since I believe third parties are going to be a much better vehicle to actual meaningful change in this country than the Democratic Party, is infinitely more significant a goal.
But
than
third parties haven't gotten a single electoral vote in 50
it's like round
years,
and round and round and round.
No, but it's true because I mean, look at Ross Perot had all the money in the world.
Yep, Ross
Didn't matter.
Perot did have a lot of money, so federal funds match wouldn't have helped him for shit, and he didn't accomplish anything either. Sorry.
He didn't get one electoral vote.
Do you agree that
That's
ranked
the
choice
reality
voting
of the
needs to come
American
first? That's
political
the important question. Do you agree that if we get ranked choice voting, then yes, overnight third parties become more viable.
that Cornel
but until we
West-
get them, they're not viable.
I think that Cornel West running in a general election where he has been doing this. He's been talking about ranked choice voting in interviews, but continuing to talk about how the onus is on the Democratic Party
Build a conveyor
to prevent the spoiler effect.
Oh shit.
He is in a position now running in a general election.
Do these people
every
not
time
know
he goes
that
on
12%
TV
of Bernie
to
primary
say,
voters
if you're
voted for Trump in
upset at me
2016?
at being a
It
spoiler,
arguably was what
you
cost
need to look
Michigan.
at the Democratic Party, who across the country for the last decades has been purposefully undermining any ballot measures that effectively put into effect ranked choice voting in Maine, in North Carolina, the way they attacked Matthew Ho. I am not the enemy, they are. And that's the burden shifting, the narrative burden shifting I think the left should be engaged in right now. To the extent that you think that Cornel West can ruin Biden's chances, isn't it Biden's responsibility to find those votes, not among disaffected third partiers who don't owe him anything anyway, but the tens of thousands and millions of disaffected Democrats who aren't going to vote for him? We've all talked about this together. In Wisconsin, in 2016, there were 88,000 registered black voters who voted in 2012 who declined to vote in 2016. That's like 2 or 3 times the margin by which Hillary Clinton lost in that state alone. And yet we're sitting here talking about whether or not Cornel West is going to pull some third-party voters away from the Democratic Party?
It's the difference between what I would love to happen and the reality that we have experienced now. I mean, we tried it before in 2016. It did not help.
What did we try in 2016?
The third-party effort. Jill Stein
They didn't
was
really
not
try.
a spoiler. It is not those voters' fault who voted for you, like you guys that voted for Jill Stein.
But she
that
got
fucking
blamed
Donald
anyway.
Trump. But she got blamed.
And then the left was further marginalized as a result of it.
So I don't see the connection. If I did, I would love to vote for Cornel West. It would feel way better to vote for Cornel West. I share his politics almost 100%. But I don't see the connection between voting for Cornel West and achieving any of the aims. And I see a much more direct connection between protecting the Biden National Labor Relations Board and allowing this little budding, exciting, amazing, potentially transformational labor movement to actually grow. Whereas if Trump gets reelected, which is, listen, it's the fact, based on how the Democratic Party is going to respond to Cornel West's election bid, it is more likely that Donald Trump gets elected with Cornel West in the race. And that, to me, is a massive loss because we know what his record is. We know what his National Labor Relations Board was. We know who his labor secretaries were and how they were engaged in all this union busting. And so I see a much more direct connection between that moving the ball in our direction than, Cornel West getting 5% and either his candidacy not really mattering at all or being used once again to, smear the left and marginalize the left and say these are just the people that are interested in getting Trump elected.
So to that second point, I'm just going to be honest. Not only do I not care about arguments that the left is going to be smeared, I think it's silly because no matter what we do, the left is going to get smeared. Bernie won Nevada, and it was, oh my God, we're going to decapitate people in Central Park. it is, I think, deeply unrealistic to expect that there's ever going to be a left movement that genuinely challenges power in this country that's not going to be smeared. And if you are choosing your political strategy on the basis of what's going to get you a pat on the head from MSNBC, I know that's not what I don't mean to mischaracterize you.
I mean,
but that is naive.
Listen, that's fine, and I agree with you. Left is going to be smeared, but the question is, what is actually going to move the ball forward?
I'm confused by why you keep asking that.
Because I don't see...
Because policy is all that matters at the end of the day.
The problem is that, like, Krystal and Kulinski are talking about, like, what policies can we enact to help, like, American people or whatever. That's kind of like what they're focused on. And what Briahna is focused on is, like, there are, like, people that I really like, and I just want to see them get more votes because that would be epic. So it's like these people are coming at it from, like, two completely different...
Cornel West getting 5% and helping to reelect Trump ends up with things going in a better direction.
Like that, Krystal? He gets 5%, and then the Green Party, a third party effort, it gets stronger and more well-funded and more able to compete in future elections.
Until we have ranked choice voting, there is no even 1% viability for them. Like, can you admit that? Can you acknowledge that it's until we get ranked choice voting, no third party has any chance in hell. You agree with that, right?
Who do you think has been doing most of the ranked choice? Who do you think?
I'm not going to answer it. It's a simple question.
I'm going to answer it in my own time, in my own words, Kyle, respectfully.
It's a simple one. The ranked choice voting thing, if we get ranked choice voting...
I go around, I do a lot of podcasts. Ooh. And I don't know what's going on right now. It might be the phase of the moon. We had the double moon last month. But I'm getting a little frustrated with feeling shouted down and disrespected in
Oh my God, she's so soft. Jesus.
Every single space that I go into. I gotta say, I promise I'm gonna answer your question, Kyle. Sit tight. I got it coming for you.
I'll sit tight.
Who do you think has been doing the bulk and the best funded ranked choice voting advocacy in terms of getting it on ballots and getting it passed in the United States of America?
Third party voters.
The Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
Because unlike the Green Party, I'm no fan of the Libertarian Party, but for obvious reasons, they were enormously better funded than the Green Party. And they, as a consequence, have been able to make much greater gains in actually getting ranked choice voting passed around the country. What I'm saying is that there's a tangible material...
Is that true? Has the Libertarian Party, like, effectively gotten ranked choice voting considered, fuck me, in different parts of the country? Is that actually true? Is that happening somewhere? And I've just, like, totally missed it?
Benefit to getting more money for a Green Party, whatever third party happens to be, but right now all we have is the Green Party for obvious reasons. Getting them more money to do the work across the country to advance third parties, ranked choice voting rather, is exactly the goal that you're articulating. So yes, I do see a direct connection between your goal, your stated goal of getting ranked choice voting.
Destiny, have you checked out Ireland's voting system? I think it would be perfect to implement in the U.S. Let's switch it to score choice voting.
There's not even a 1% chance or a 0.1% chance of Cornel West winning unless or until we get ranked choice voting. So I have to be honest, I feel like it's self-disenfranchisement to really, like, put all your effort into third parties before we get ranked choice, putting the cart before the horse, in my opinion. That's my point. And on the issue of Democrats versus Republicans, we know either the Democrat or the Republican is going to win. And clearly we have a disagreement in terms of how good of a job Joe Biden is doing. Because like I said, I expected nothing of him, Briahna. I expected, this is the guy who brought us the Iraq War and the Patriot Act and NAFTA, and he's like the poster child of the conservative Democrat and the neoliberal. But then he gets in office and he does all these things which shock me. He massively reduced the drone war by over 90%. He, like I said, pulled out of Afghanistan.
Hi.
Hey, I saw you were talking about ranked choice of voting.
What about it?
Well, you asked if it was ever helped a third-party candidate win.
Well, I was just curious. It seems like the claim right now that's being made is that that apparently the Libertarians have made great strides in getting ranked choice voting done in the United States, and I was unaware of that. If that was true, I was just curious if that was actually true.
So ranked choice voting did happen. Was it last or maybe 2 years ago? New York City, right before I moved to Jersey. So I still was able to vote there, and it was for the mayor, and it did not make like a third party candidate win. I think there were people pushing to defund the police and pushing like the BLM issues, and New York City still went with a moderate Democrat that was a cop for a mayor instead.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Do you know if they got ranked choice voting because of libertarians or?
Oh, if they got it because of libertarians?
Yeah, because that was the argument.
Yeah, but I think the idea that it would result then in like a libertarian or a third-party candidate winning.
Yeah, I mean that would probably be the next step, but yeah, I didn't even know that libertarians were the ones that were making it happen. But
I have no idea if it was libertarians. I thought you were just asking about the outcome.
Nope.
So never mind.
But, okay, thank you. Love you. Be careful. Bye.
Afghanistan, the Supreme Court overturned the EPA's ability to regulate greenhouse gas emissions, and the Democrats slipped into the IRA a provision that redefines carbon as a pollutant, which then allows the EPA to start protecting the environment again. If we didn't get that, and yes, that was brought to us by Democrats, we would be beyond fucked on the issue of climate change. We still are, but we'd be even more fucked if the EPA couldn't do basic EPA stuff. We have project labor agreements for hundreds of thousands of construction workers. That came to us from Biden. $15 minimum wage for federal contractors and employees. That's from Biden. Gun reform with red flag laws and closing the boyfriend loophole. Those are definitely good things. Ketanji Brown Jackson on the court. A George Floyd executive order to create a registry of abusive cops. We have the PACT Act, which is health care for veterans exposed to toxic burn pits, which every single Republican voted against. He added 800,000 manufacturing jobs. I didn't expect any of these things. So when I talk about Biden the way I do is because none of these things were on the menu and we got them. So now when I look at the fact it's either going to be Trump or Biden, a standard generic Republican or standard generic Democrat, the way I feel now versus the way I felt in the past is like, oh, this is definitely way better. If you asked me in 2019 or 2020, I'd be like, I don't know, man, flip a coin. 52% maybe a Democrat's a little bit better than a Republican. Now I'm looking at it like, it's not even close. One blows the other out of the water, and all I care about is the policy. And when we have all these policies, I mean, we have a 15% corporate minimum tax rate now. That is not something we had previously. You'd have corporations paying nothing in taxes, or they'd even get a negative tax rate, which is a subsidy effectively from the taxpayers. These things are not nothing. We have a 1% tax on stock buybacks. They're cracking down on wealthy tax cheats. Like, all these things are very good. They're objectively good. So do you agree that Biden is better than what we expected on the left?
No.
Maybe you've already set your expectations on the ground, and it seems like he's surpassed your expectations. He has not surpassed mine. I don't know what you want me to say.
But he's not better than what you thought?
No,
that's
he's not better than what I thought he was.
Really? She doesn't care about policy. She cares about socialism. She doesn't give a about policy.
Him to
cancel all student loan debt.
I expect him to fulfill his campaign promises, but I'm not going to pat him on the back when he so flagrantly lied about them. No.
But let me ask you a related but different question. I mean, how do you assess the difference between a Trump and a Biden? Acknowledging that, I mean, I think you would acknowledge it's not, Cornel West is not going to be president.
I'm going to be honest with you. If it's about convincing me how Briahna Joy Gray is going to vote, Briahna Joy Gray lives in D.C., is constructively disenfranchised, and Briahna Joy Gray also is sympathetic to accelerationist arguments. So I am not afraid of Trump, and I will never for the rest of my life, I don't care if I live in Pennsylvania, I don't care if I live in Georgia, vote out of fear. That's not who I am. That's not who I was raised. That's just me. And I recognize that I am radical. I recognize I'm not telling anybody to be like me, but that's who I am.
So, but just to get back to the question, I mean, do you acknowledge that Biden is better than Trump? I genuinely want to know, like, how do you assess? Do you see they're like roughly the same?
I think it depends on what metric they're using. There are people who will take everything that you just said and say if
she won't even say if Biden is better than Trump.
Escalating in Ukraine the way he has been doing, missiles going off deeper, closer to Russia that are Western in origin, and the doomsday clock ticking down on World War III the way it has been done, cancels out all of the meaningful gains that you just articulated so nicely. If it comes down to World War III versus that litany of achievements that you just articulated, there are people that, with the hindsight of living in the nuclear holocaust, would say, well, I guess that Trump actually was a better president.
Who's more likely to get us World War III, though? I definitely think it's Trump. I definitely think it's Trump more likely to get us World War III.
I don't want to know what people think.
You disagree with that?
I want to know what you think. Do you think that that's accurate? Because to me, I look at the record.
We don't know until history happens what history is going to do. I wouldn't have expected that under Biden we would have gotten in the middle of this war with Ukraine and Russia. I would not. That wasn't on my bingo card either.
Yeah, but we know that Trump was actually more hawkish towards Russia than
he built up on NATO's border.
Obama
he put troops on NATO's border.
We know what he did with Iran. We know he said he was going to get on Afghanistan. Biden actually did it. So we can evaluate these two claims. That we shouldn't believe anything that Donald Trump says about Ukraine.
A toxic. This is literally just a vote blue no matter who a lesser two equals conversation.
No, it's a let's discuss the facts and how you weigh them.
It's literally not a vote blue no matter who. Vote blue no matter who means that you... Oh, that was my game. Sorry. I just got really confused. Vote blue no matter who means no matter what they do, no matter what the policies, and no matter what they stand for, just vote blue. They're literally providing justifications for why they think Biden has done a better job. That is exactly the exact opposite argument of a vote blue no matter who. This is, yeah. Is she just slogans? She's a smart person. I know she is because I watched her eviscerate Vosh. Holy shit. Well, Vosh was just extra stupid in that conversation, to be fair.
Conversation.
How about this? Biden can be 10 times better than Trump. Let's concede that for the sake of argument. I'm not voting for him. And millions of other people feel the same way because it has absolutely nothing to do with that. I don't know how else to express this to you guys. Kyle, it's not that there is a disinterest or a failure to recognize what are meaningful changes, but there is a realization that acknowledging gains when the possibility of what someone could be doing to help the population that elected them. When there is a huge gap there, it can be papered up by championing someone's accomplishments. And people are reluctant to give credit precisely because they think it will end the conversation about how much further people should be pushed. So it feels akin to saying, Jeff Bezos was walking down the street and he gave a $5 to a homeless person.
It's not that, oh my God.
Don't you want to pat him on the back? And it's like, well, yeah, on some level, I'm glad the...
I love seeing Kulinski getting frustrated at least. He's human. He's there. Okay, Kulinski's based. Okay, I'm a Kulinski stan now. Okay, I like seeing the frustrating one because it is. It's like, bro, really? That's your comparison? Come on.
The homeless guy can give his sandwich. But your framing of the student debt issue
is accurate. Yes,
is precisely what the problem is.
It's not a problem. Look, I am actually discussing the facts that I learned through reading 1,000 articles on the case. Now, if I bring up those facts and it triggers some idiots into hating me, so be it. They can hate me all they want. The facts still matter.
What are you talking about?
Okay, I didn't expect him to appeal the cases. He appealed the cases. I didn't expect him to do the Higher Education Act after the Supreme Court slapped it down. He did the Higher Education Act. I didn't expect him to do any of it, and he did it. And this is something that, if I said early on, Biden's going to do nothing on student loan debt, everybody on the left would have been like, you're right, he's going to do nothing. Now he does 5, 6 different things on it, and it's like people go, no, doesn't count. I'm not saying what he's doing is perfect. Obviously, the best thing to do is to wipe it all out through executive order, and he has the authority to do that. That'd be the best thing to do. He didn't do that, but can we at least acknowledge the facts of what went down? And I see this rugged insistence. Honestly, it's like Biden derangement syndrome among some people on the left. And it's like,
oh, BDS, he brought it out. He brought it out. Oh my God, she's gonna lose her mind. He's calling her deranged.
Democrat derangement syndrome among some people on the left. The fact that we can't all agree very quickly that, well, obviously Democrats are not 10 times better than Republicans. They're 100 times better than Republicans. And even if you are somebody who's a purist and you're on the left, you can acknowledge a W in the instances you get it while still pushing for more. I mean, a perfect example is what's happening in Minnesota right now. Minnesota has a 1-seat Democrat majority. We got universal free school meals, legal weed, carbon-free electricity by 2040, tax rebates for the working class up to $1,300 if you make under $150,000 a year, 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave. They banned conversion therapy. They did red flag laws for guns. They did universal background checks for guns. They did automatic voter registration, public free college if you make under 80K, a ban on PFAs, which is the forever chemicals, $2.2 billion increase in K-12 school funding, sectoral bargaining for nursing home workers. These things are all not little wins. They are huge wins. And I still see this insistence like we're back in 2016 or something where people are like, nope, Democrats and Republicans are either equally bad or actually jujitsu move, Republicans are the lesser evil. And I think it's idiotic. It's doomerist. It's nihilist.
True, like she just did. Well, maybe if we made a nuclear holocaust, Trump would have been the better president, actually. Like, true.
People who are refusing to acknowledge reality, and they'd rather narrative hump all day talking about Democrats are so bad, Democrats are so bad, Democrats are so bad. But, oh, yeah, I'm a leftist.
Oh, my God. Hello? Kyle-based Linsky? What did Krystal do to this man? Secular talk is coming back, boys. Look at how mad she is. Was she not expecting this much pushback? I wouldn't have expected this much pushback.
Acknowledge reality, and they'd rather narrative hump all day.
Can we acknowledge that even though Kyle Kulinski has significant problems, that we can take our W's where we get them? That even if Kyle Kulinski is not the perfect neoliberal championing all neoliberal policies, at the very least, we can give him credit for when we take our big W's?
About Democrats are so bad, Democrats are so bad, Democrats are so bad, but oh yeah, I'm a leftist.
Going back to the student debt point.
She's so ass mad. Oh my God, she's so upset.
It is kind of telling to me, Kyle, that you so quickly, you injected your own low subjective, personal, and low expectations into the argument to say, well, because Joe Biden did more than I subjectively believed was possible, I am going to, you're accusing me of minimizing the accomplishments. I think that you might be minimizing his failures in the extent to which that he knowingly, it seems, lied about what he was willing to do and, in fact, dramatically underachieved his campaign promises. And for you,
how many major how many major pieces of legislation have we gotten? How many trillion, is it $3 trillion of like major legislation, like stimulus to the American people? How much have we gotten from a 50-50 Senate split from Biden? And to pretend that he's like underachieving is unfathomable. It is such a delusional perspective. I can't even begin to imagine what your world looks like. I know what it looks like. It looks like capitalism or socialism. And if it's not capitalism, or if it's not socialism, then you just don't care about anything. Like, that's literally the answer for her.
Skipping a jump. Okay, but he did more than I expect. You're setting your expectations lower than the expectations that he set for the American public in the context of his campaign. And I completely respect and appreciate that that doesn't bother you as much as it bothers me. I don't know if it's because I have experienced six-figure student debt. I don't know.
You went to Harvard. Stop acting like you're some poor child that is like the desperately. This chick was complaining about her student loan debt while she was earning, I think, 6 figures from a podcast, and we could all see her Patreon numbers. I don't know if they've hid them now, but like, please stop. This is literally a Harvard law graduate. Please stop crying about your student loan debt. People like her are the exact reason why I don't care that much about student loan debt when people complain about it. Oh my God. They did hide them? Oh, they did hide them because they got mad that people saw how much money they were making. So when they stopped hiding them in 2021, 2 years ago, they were earning about $28,000 a month. This chick is earning over $28,000 a month back then and simultaneously tweeting out, guys, I need help with my student loans too. Give me a break. Oh my God.
Your life, I'm not trying to make any presumptions about it. I don't know if it's because I had a certain kind of life experiences or that other people who kind of share my view have these kind of life experiences. But for millions of us, 44 million in fact, that kind of...
Don't say us, okay? You're not us. You're not part of any us, okay? You're part of the elite. If you want to talk about us, then talk about the other billionaire class, millionaire class people that you're a part of, because you are not part of any like poor, impoverished movement that so desperately needs like any of this stuff. And it's obvious from the way that you conduct yourself, right? Remember, the only people in society that can do this all or nothing bullshit are the most privileged people of society, because every other motherfucker wants and desperately needs that incremental change. If your life is a little bit better tomorrow than it was yesterday, that's a big win in somebody who needs their life to be a little bit better. That all or nothing shit is only a position that the most privileged can take. And that is consistently true every single time.
Bait and switch is unforgivable when you recognize, as you have both recognized, that it was in his power to sign an executive order to deliver overwhelmingly for the people whose votes he needs right now. So the argument is not with me. The argument is with the millions of Americans who feel betrayed by Joe Biden and his campaign promises. If we have a contract agreement for you to fix the hole in my roof and I give you $100, and you come into my house and instead you restage my living room and it looks beautiful, that simply wasn't the agreement. And so I am fine. I'm happy to acknowledge the furniture placement is gorgeous. I love the floral arrangements, but that's not what we bargained for.
Would she agree to a debate with you? I don't know if she would or not. I've been pretty mean towards her. I feel like that she doesn't like that. So she had a debate with Vosh though, and oh my God, it was brutal. Vosh got, I don't know why I think this was at the height of the arc where Vosh was like, I don't think I need to prepare for any debate ever because I don't care and it doesn't matter. And I just like rely on my natural smarts. Oof. Vaush had a debate with her, and it was absolutely fucking brutal. Holy shit.
If your desire is to push the Democratic Party left, you have to. Chris Hedges says this all the time. It's a politics of fear. If you are more afraid of electing Trump than the Democratic Party is, you are never going to be able to exert any leverage on them at all. And I understand that's a risky position. I understand Trump getting reelected is scary. I understand that there are.
Please don't forget that she was younger. When she was younger, both her parents were international school teachers in Saudi Arabia, and Briahna lived there too. She had a very privileged upbringing. She's not of a tough upbringing she wants to convey. Sure. Although I will say, be careful on the international teacher thing. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, international teacher seems like a really cool, awesome, amazing, privileged job. But my understanding, and I don't know if this is the case with Brianna's parents, right? It might not be. But my understanding is that, like, if you want to, oh God, no, I'm good. If you want to travel internationally, I think the best way to do it is to be an international teacher, because I've heard, I don't know if this is true, I'm just repeating what I've heard. I've heard that, like, you can go to school for like 2 months and get certified to be like an international English teacher if you want to like do that and go live in another country. So just as a heads up. But that might not be the case in like Saudi fucking Arabia. Maybe you always get paid a lot there, yeah.
Meaningful ways in which he's hurt real people in real ways. I understand all of that. And we just have a difference of opinion about what the priorities are. You said in that viral clip, Krystal, if your priority is reelecting the Democratic Party, then X, Y, and Z. And I think that was good that you said that, because you articulated what the priority is for you.
No, that is not the priority for me. The policy is the priority for me, Bri. And I think you know that. Then I think it's disingenuous to say otherwise. But let me just a quote let me just say though, is it worth? I mean, I think you care a lot about the labor movement, right?
Sure.
So is it worth letting that baby be smothered in the crib in order to what? I mean, that's the piece that I don't understand.
Do you think debates with lefties like her help her make it harder to secure more debates with bigger figures on the right if you're able to push back hard? I don't know. The thing is, not to be mean, but like people like her are just not very relevant. It's why I keep pushing back on these platforms, and I'll interrupt people to do it. People are like, oh, well, I think the radical left and the radical right, the radical left are not a threat to this country. I mean, like they kind of are, but they are like socially. Like we have to fight for like crazy college kids and shit like that. But politically, they're not very relevant. They have no relevancy. But the radical right is the majority of the Republican Party right now. I would say the majority of the majority of the Republican Party right now are radicalized, which is insane. And when I say radicalized, I mean things like, I keep bringing this up because it's just wild. And I don't like that this is such a minor point and it feels like a whatever now, but like the fact that the majority of conservatives don't trust the last election is probably one of the worst beliefs that you can ever propagate throughout a political party. It is so unimaginably fucking damaging to the integrity of our country that so many conservatives think that our last election was fake. That is so fucking horrible.
I understand all of your critique of Joe Biden. I think it's reasonable, okay? I actually am not as strong as Kyle in terms of the intentions on the student loan debt,
more of a Biden bro than she
right?
is, for sure. And she gets accused of being a bigger one than me, but that's a side point.
I understand your critiques of Joe Biden very well. Many of them, if not all of them, I basically share. What I don't understand is just simply a tactical question of how focusing on a third-party effort gets us towards the goals that we share. That's the piece that, to me, recent history proves it has the complete opposite effect, whereas we do see actual progress that is possible made through the Democratic primary process. And I know you accept that, like
Didn't the Dems do the same with Bush? I have no, hold up. That is not fair. My understanding, the Dems never said the whole election was fake. I think the Dems fought really hard in Florida over recounts, but that was because that election was decided, I believe in Florida, it was within hundreds of votes. They had the right to demand a recount, and then they took it to the Supreme Court, and they failed on the process. But then that was it. I don't recall people saying that, like, there were fake votes or fake ballots, or that, like, all in the states there was a coordinated effort to destroy the election, blah, 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 and we did impeach Bush, and 4 years after Bush, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there were some people that said it, but by and large, it was not the mainstream position of the Democratic Party or Democratic politicians. As opposed to today, the majority of Republicans think that there was a concerted effort, conspiracy, not a conspiracy, like an actual conspiracy planned by the Democratic Party to destroy the election.
Not a Marianne hater. I'm not putting that on you whatsoever. Marianne. But I don't understand how risking the re-election of Trump and allowing a Trump union-busting NLRB to quash what is the most hopeful thing happening in American politics, which is the labor
That's
movement.
not true, Destiny. Most conservatives do not think that only loud ones. No, most conservatives, I mean, Google it or send me a poll and tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that 70% of Republicans right now believe that the last election results were illegitimate. That's my understanding. If I'm wrong or there's more recent data or that's changed, you can tell me. But I think that's trended upwards over the past year. I think more conservatives now than last year or the year before believe that the election was stolen. The only Republicans that answer those polls are the radical ones. Okay. Okay, dude.
Movement. I don't understand how that moves us forward. Like, that just doesn't compute for me.
Well, for one, I'd say, and I don't mean to at all minimize the value of this latest ruling.
Can I also say that I appreciate this, that like, I'm pretty sure Kyle Kulinski is to the left of me, probably on almost everything, but like, if he has a realistic view of the Democratic Party, I think that's a healthy opposition from the left, as opposed to somebody like Hassan Abi or fucking Sam Cedar, right? If Kulinski's like, listen, we need 15 an hour, we need stronger pushes to eliminate student loan, blah, blah, blah. If that's fine, but you're also like, well, listen, Biden's trying, he's doing what he can. I wish he was more to the left, or I think he's failed on these promises. I think that's fine. I think it's a healthy perspective to be more, I don't want to say radical, but farther to the left in that way, because at least you're like, your head is screwed on, right?
But I have been heartened by the energy and the gains made by the labor movement prior to that, over the last few years.
Which were enabled by the Biden NLRB. I mean, there were keys. The workers get all the, listen, they do the work. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But there were key decisions that were made in the Starbucks organizing drive in particular, in the Amazon labor union drive as well, that enabled those workers to do their thing that wouldn't happen under Trump.
It feels as though, one, the question has been asked and answered several times. You don't agree with my priority. But
no, I still don't understand it. And I'm may just be dense, but explain again.
I agree with Kyle that ranked choice voting is a priority.
Yeah.
I believe that getting the Green Party more powerful, getting them federal matching funds, enables them to join in the Libertarian Party, which has been the most successful advocate for ranked choice voting in the country, to continue to further those efforts. My vote for Joe Biden does nothing to advance what I think will be the ultimate path toward left victory in the United States, which is getting rid of the corporate duopoly.
Yep. Remember, for people like Briahna and for a lot of leftists, they don't care about progress. They don't care about policies. They don't care about work. Blah, blah, blah. All they care about is like the move towards socialism. She said earlier that like she's not scared of Donald Trump. She's sympathetic towards accelerationist arguments. Like she literally said that verbatim. I'm not even making that up. So yeah, I mean it's pretty clear like where their priorities are.
I don't see voting for Joe Biden as advancing that core effort at all.
So ranked choice voting is kind of like, I'm just trying to understand, is like the end all be all. That's the number one priority. And so you would actually support the Libertarian Party, the American Constitution Party, the Forward Party, whatever, if that it advanced that goal. And that's the priority over everything else. I'm just trying to understand.
Would I personally support an effort by any of those parties to advance ranked choice voting? Yeah, of course.
No, but would you support those parties? Like, because ranked choice voting is so important.
Why would I when I could vote for the Green Party that actually shares my ideals as well?
Well, I'm just trying to understand where your priorities lie. Is it like you're basically a single issue voter and it's ranked choice voting?
Well, it's not a single issue. It's breaking the corporate duopoly. That's it. This is the fundamental issue. I think that for many people, they are very wary of validating what they see as a two-headed snake. And this comes back to your concern, Kyle, about people not willing to acknowledge these successes. I think that we all understand that there is a way that the two corporate parties play off of each other. Democrats get to keep lowering the bar because the Republicans are worse. They both play these culture war games back and forth with each other, where at the end of the day, we're told, well, you gotta go vote for the Democrats because gay rights and trans rights and black rights and immigrant rights and all of these rights are on the line. And I said this in 2020 as well. It's not that those arguments aren't true. The question is, how do we ever disentangle ourselves from that? Because it's always going to be the case that some worser thing is coming down the pike precisely because we've enabled that to be the case. And many people, and I don't feel quite this way, but many people feel as though there is an energy suck that happens with even paying attention and voting in these general elections.
7 out of 10 Americans accept Bush as legitimate president. 17% believe he stole the election. And I will say, I will even qualify this further. 17% might have felt like Bush stole the election, but those claims of him stealing the election are a billion times more legitimate than the claims of Donald Trump stealing, or that what Donald Trump says the Democrats stole the election. Because when people claim that Bush stole the election, which, by the way, I don't believe those claims are good. I think they're not good claims. But those claims were specific to Florida over specific issues in Florida, right? And over some of the processes in Florida. Now, I think they're bad claims, but one, even at that, it was only 17% apparently believed those claims. But two, those claims are far less incredulous than Donald Trump, who believes that there was a nationwide conspiracy from the top down involving pundits, politicians, judges, state people, ballot counters, voter, all these different parties came together, right? Even at that. So the strength of the conspiracy is way stronger on the Trump side, and the number of people that believe it is way higher on the Trump side. So it's worse. It's horribly worse on both counts of that. So didn't Vaush believe there was a conspiracy in Florida? Vaush doesn't have any strong beliefs about what happened in Florida because Vaush doesn't know what happened in Florida. And in that conversation, he demonstrated like 3 different times. He said Scalia and George W. Bush were fascists, okay? Vaush had no idea what the happened in Florida. I think that might have been one of the last debates that we had for him. That was an unbelievable conversation.
I think that your points about what's happened on the state level in Minnesota, et cetera, are much stronger. I know that, for example, Sabby Sabs is always making the case that, don't forgo electoral politics, focus more on what's happening on the local.
Here are the polls for how many people think Biden was fairly elected. Infogram.com. I wonder what the year is for these polls. Agree that Biden was elected legitimately. Oh, it shows here. Oh, this is from 2021. My understanding is these numbers have gotten even worse. In 2021 and 2022, 25% of Republicans, 21% of Republicans, 20% of Republicans, 39% according to this poll, and 25%. So some 75, 3/4. That is an insane number. That is an insane number. That is an insane number.
Level, and I think that is a perfectly reasonable argument to make as well. But I do think that there is a failure to recognize the extent to which there is a validation that takes place of the status quo, that people are trying to negotiate as they reckon with real gains that the Biden administration has effectuated.
Yeah, so let me respond to that. I don't want to validate the status quo as much as I want to acknowledge the positive things that exist and have happened recently, which I think is some evidence that in some ways, limited, but some ways, we are moving in a better direction. So let me share a point of agreement, because we've been arguing the whole time. It'd be nice.
What the fuck does that even mean? There are polls with 30% and polls with 70%. You're so disingenuous, Destiny. Wait, what are you talking about? All of these polls showed about the same thing. Agree that Biden was legitimately elected. This says 25, 21, 21, 39, big outlier, 25. But these are all roughly showing they're all showing like 60% or more of Republicans don't believe in the last election. What do you mean? They're inconsistent.
To have a point of agreement real quick. If we wake up tomorrow and there's ranked choice voting everywhere, I would be the biggest Green Party simp on the planet. I would be insufferable. I would basically spend every day advocating for the Green Party. The reason I don't do that is because we don't have ranked choice voting, and I do feel like the choice is effectively just down to a Democrat or Republican in the general election, whoever they may be. Now, having said that, I don't want to validate the status quo. I just want to let everybody know in some ways we are moving in a good direction. You brought up the state parties there. There are 6 states now that did free school meals for kids. And in some of those states, that's even breakfast and lunch. And people are not going to be surprised to hear this. Those are Democratic states. And you have the Republican Study Committee, which is basically 3/4 of the House GOP, they're pushing to ban any...
What is ranked choice voting? If you can imagine when Goku was fighting Frieza, Goku had no shot of ever beating Frieza, but then he had this magical thing called Super Saiyan that basically came out and saved him and allowed him to win the fight. That's what ranked choice voting is supposed to be for third-party candidates.
In all states from doing free school meals for kids. They released this in their priority. So when I look at that, I feel like I try to hold the two thoughts in my mind at the same time. I want Cornel West to be president. But I also know that given how structurally deficient and biased the system is right now, it's not going to happen. So given that, yes, I would prefer. Let me ask you this, because I feel like this is a better way to put it. Forget about voting. Voting's irrelevant, right? Let's just say it's election night 2024. It is all of our worst nightmare, Biden versus Trump.
Is that our worst nightmare? Biden is our... Here's why I don't mind that election scenario. There's a couple things. One is Biden has already beaten Trump. And I think that hopefully, I can't predict the future, but hopefully we've gotten to the worst of like the inflation and all that shit for Biden's presidency. Biden's record is really strong on legislation. The economy and everything is settled down really hard. We keep forgetting this, but remember, we were supposed to have infinite lockdowns, according to conservatives. We were supposed to have infinite lockdowns, and we were supposed to be in a massive recession where the world was ending, okay? Massive recession, infinite lockdowns. Neither of those happened, okay? Major legislation passed. Biden has done a good job. If he has to run against a guy that he's already beaten, who has only gotten worse for wear over time, like, what is Trump now? Now Trump is a quad indicted president from 2 different states and 3 states and 1 federal, right? New York, Georgia. No, I'm sorry. In Florida is still a federal one. It's 2 states and 2 federal indictments. It's not like he's gotten any more attractive as a candidate, and he's like, you know, wearing these bullets. Okay, he's got all these indictments on him. And let's go through all of that. Let's say that hypothetically Biden was to lose the next election. Okay, let's say hypothetically Biden was to lose the next election. Technically speaking, as painful as it is and as dangerous as Trump is, technically speaking, Trump would be the best conservative that we would want to beat Biden, because it means that Republicans don't have an incumbent advantage for another election, right? Incumbent advantage is very, very, very strong historically in the United States for president. If Donald Trump did win the presidency, he's only got 1 term left. He can't actually run again. So, I mean, like, it would be bad and horrible if he won for the presidency for a variety of reasons, but at the very least, he's a 1-term president, right? No matter what. I have no idea why Pisco just said false or what retarded shit he could possibly say to that, but okay. I don't know why he just said false.
Voting, not voting. But that night, when you know it's going to be Biden or Trump winning, are you sitting there like, yeah, of course I would prefer Biden win over Trump?
Honestly,
it's like 50-50?
I don't care.
Okay. It's going to be Biden or Trump winning.
An insane
Are you sitting there like, yeah, of course I would prefer Biden win over Trump?
Honestly,
it's like 50-50?
I don't care.
Okay. All right. That's an answer.
It's not my party.
That's an answer.
That's
an answer.
Radical, and people are going to be very upset with me. I don't care. I think care. That's
there will be people who agree with you. I don't think you...
I know.
Yeah.
They're my audience. And I have come to this position after talking with... I got to say, I loved Colin. I'm sad that they're shutting it down. But part of the reason I loved it is because I would talk to people who were calling me. I would hear their doors dinging in the background because they were doing food delivery, or they're EMTs, or they're like... And this gets characterized as a privilege.
The question should,
the question should be binary. Did Bush experience same delegitimization of his win by his political opponents? Yes, if it comes down to who was more successful. That's just consequentialism on steroids.
No, it's not binary, because there's different levels of like, was this election unfairly handled? No, that's not a binary thing. So for instance, I'd have to go back and revisit the Supreme Court case, but I feel like the Democrats didn't have a great argument. But there's a big difference between like, well, actually, no, fuck it. We can do it 1-to-1, okay? I've said this before, and I'll say it again. And I think the the federal government, the DOJ indictments agree with me here, for what that's worth. The Republicans, as slimy as it fucking was, the Republicans had a right to challenge the election process by certifying the vote in Congress. They had that right. They had that legal right to do that, which was fine. States, arguably, had the right to attempt to challenge the election handlings in other states through the court process. Trump's own lawyers had the right to challenge it legally. You have the right to do that. You can challenge that. There's a big difference between that and then spending the next 4 years saying the last election was illegitimate. We need to suspend the Constitution in order to make things right. That is an unbelievable statement. If a Democrat said it, I would heavily condemn the Democrat for saying it. I don't believe that any Democrat took it anywhere near as far as Trump had. Not even like 0.1% as far as Trump has in terms of challenging the last election.
Position that you don't care who wins, Trump or Biden. My experience is the people who have been taking this position, this is just anecdotal, thinking in the background because they're doing food delivery, or they're EMTs,
right?
Or they're like, and they.
It's an answer.
Radical, and people are going to be very upset with me. I don't care. I think care.
There will be people who agree with you. I don't think you.
I know.
Yeah.
They're my audience, and I have come to this position after talking with. I got to say, I loved Colin. I'm sad that they're shutting it down. But part of the reason I loved it is because I would talk to people who were calling me. I would hear their doors dinging in the background because they were doing food delivery, or they're EMTs, or they're like, and this gets characterized as a privileged position that you don't care who wins, Trump or Biden.
Hold on. I know that conservative dipshits like to wheel out this singular quote over and over and over again because it's literally all you have, because you're not actually engaging in like critical thought or serious conversation. So you only have one lines of quote that you can bring out because you can't engage on any other level. Biden said, right? Hillary literally said Trump was an illegitimate president because Russia made him president. Hillary has used that illegitimate president line, but she probably shouldn't. But when you look at what she's saying, Hillary is not alleging a top-down conspiratorial fraud committed by the Republican Party to get Trump elected. She's alleging that he had an improper relation with Russia, which, by the way, any sane person will agree. The idea of calling for other people to hack your political opponent or saying that Russia will be rewarded or any of this shit, anybody would agree that that is probably improper. Maybe not illegal, but definitely unethical and definitely improper, right? Her saying that like Trump is an illegitimate president is not the same as when Trump says the Democrats had a top-down conspiracy to rig the actual election. That is a totally different claim.
My experience is the people who have been taking this position, this is just anecdotal, tend to be people at the lower end of the economic spectrum who do feel like their lives aren't meaningfully different under a Trump versus a Biden, and who would rather rock the boat and throw a monkey wrench in the machinery if there's even a fracture of a sliver of a chance that it has some outcome other than what we've been experiencing for their entire lives.
Fair enough. You gave a direct answer,
yeah,
so I respect it.
The other thing I would say, though, because you said you're basically an accelerationist. Like, you think things need to get better in order for them to get...
She said she's sympathetic towards their argument.
I mean, worse in order for them to get better.
Given my own class privilege, I am reluctant to personally put those wheels into motion, but I very much respect particularly people who, like I just was talking about, who do feel that way. I think that's a legitimate perspective. I feel like it's not my place to say, let's make the world burn, because I'm going to be okay in either way. But I am open to that perspective.
Colors your view and how you approach these things and why you wouldn't really care whether it's Biden or Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the night of 2016. I wasn't, I don't know, how did you guys feel? I wasn't personally devastated.
So,
I felt
that's a
in
great
some
question.
weird
Let me
way
answer.
vindicated.
That's a very...
This is what we have been telling them was going to happen the whole time.
So I agree with you completely about 2016, right? And I voted for Jill Stein in 2016. 2020, I didn't vote for Biden. I didn't vote for anybody. It was sort of like, no, seriously, I think they're roughly equal. I think Biden's around the edges better, but I thought he was going to be as conservative a president as he was a senator. So I was like, okay, whatever. But on the night of 2020, I was actually like, oh, for the love of God, I hope Trump loses. And, you know, that it's because I see everything he did. I mean, look, I can run through all the bad things Biden did. That's my standard rant that I've been doing for a long time now. But when you look at Trump, I mean, I don't want to sidetrack the conversation here, but like the 91 felonies that he's charged with for defrauding the United States with fake electors and effectively trying to...
She's going to say, what is her response? She's not going to do the, well, Biden had classified documents because that's really dumb. I wonder if she's going to do the, I think all presidents are war criminals. I wonder if she'll do that one. Let's see.
Steal the election. Like, to me, I kind of agree with the people who are like, on that alone, I mean, this is fucking crazy. We've never been here before. We're talking about the peaceful transfer of power is genuinely in question now in a way that it never was before.
Let me say, in terms of my view...
Oh, she's not going to respond to it?
The reason why I'm not even a little bit sympathetic towards the accelerationist view is, first of all, I just think, like, you know,
she's not even a
little bit worse. And I think there's a real possibility that, you know, we go in the, rather than a leftist utopia, we go in the direction of like a fascist police state. I think that's a real possibility on the table. And if things get worse, I think that's probably more likely than the outcome we would like to see. But specifically on Trump.
True.
In some ways, the worst.
That's true. I hate when acceleration is like, let's just bring the whole system down so that we can build it over. Why do you think that what comes next is going to be better than what comes now? Why do you think the commies would win against the fascists? Like,
part of the Trump era has been not that it has created a divisive politics, because I believe in a divisive politics. It's just about where the divides should be. And he has made politics all about just how do you feel about the person of Donald Trump. And I think that that has been a significant barrier in terms of making any of the arguments that we want to make for a different world and better policies, et cetera. Because, yeah, you could say, oh, they'll just say Ron DeSantis or whoever is worse than Trump. But you got to acknowledge there is something a little special about the dude who's going to like do a January 6th and like, you know, have an insurrection, etc. He's a particularly potent villain that is weaponized very effectively. And so it creates a divisive politics that is divided along all the wrong lines. So that's why I'm not sympathetic to the view that like, oh, maybe if we elect Trump, somehow that'll make things better in an a process that's 3 years down the road or 3 decades down the road that no one can really explain. I'm not sympathetic to that because I've seen the way that Trump has made our politics worse in real time in a way that has not been beneficial.
True.
Well, for one, I would say to the extent that we are inching closer to fascism as opposed to the socialist utopia.
True.
We got exactly here doing vote blue no matter who. So I don't think that any kind of concerted Green Party campaign or effort, third
but
party.
That's not really
if we voted blue no matter who, Al Gore would have been president. We would have never had Bush, and Hillary would have beaten Trump. So vote blue no matter who would have been a whole bunch of standard milquetoast Democrats.
You think Hillary would have been better than Trump?
Now you're making the argument that it's third party spoilers' fault that Al Gore wasn't elected in 2000.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying you accused the vote blue no matter who argument. I'm saying if people had quote unquote voted blue no matter who, Democrats would have won every election. That's the point I'm making.
Well,
vote blue no matter who means everybody votes Democrat.
So for one, more registered Democrats in Florida voted for George Bush.
I know, I agree with
than
that.
they did Al Gore. Al Gore failed to win his own state.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you on that.
So I'm struggling with the argument here. What does George Bush, then the Supreme
No, you just
Court
said
of it
we
all.
got where we
So
are
what
now
is-
because of vote blue no matter who. And the point I was making is, in a real quote unquote vote blue no matter who, there would have been no Republicans elected if everybody votes Democrat. That's the point I'm making.
Vote blue no matter who doesn't mean everyone votes Democrat. Vote blue no matter who.
True. Good kick comment. Bro, the fucking student loan relief she wants so bad was cut down in the SCOTUS. If Hillary was there, she would have the SCOTUS Dem favorite and it would have won. Let's go. True. Leslie Lucas in YouTube chat thinks your take on Rittenhouse is wrong and wants to debate you about it. I don't even know who this guy is. Why? I don't know why. But thank you. Okay.
Means the Democratic Party uses coercion and guilt to get people to vote for it instead of delivering on what polls demonstrate overwhelming majorities of Americans want, which is left policies. That's what the pernicious nature of vote blue no matter who is, that it absolves the Democratic Party of having to look at polls that say 2/3 of Americans don't want Joe Biden to run because he's too old, that 88% of Democratic voters want Medicare for all, that 60% of Floridians, a state that went for Trump, wanted a $15 minimum wage, but Joe Biden, whose praises we've been singing a lot today. Trump wanted 8% of Democratic voters want Medicare for all. That 60% of Floridians, a state that went for Trump, wanted a $15 minimum wage. But Joe Biden, whose praises we've been singing a lot today, purposefully stripped on order of the parliamentarian from must-pass COVID legislation so that that one core promise that he made to Bernie, as Bernie dropped out after like 3 days of not being, endorsed after 3 days after dropping out, was immediately thrown under the bus.
But let me just to interject real quick, because I don't want you to get the misimpression that I'm not aware of the negative things around Joe Biden. He also said he was going to get back in the Iran agreement, did not get back in the Iran agreement. We're still terribly cooked to Saudi Arabia as a country as they do a genocide, where he's still sanctioning Afghanistan. He's super conservative on the border, almost to the point of being as extreme as Trump. He did the Willow Project. He didn't give us a public option. He didn't give us $15 minimum wage. He didn't get the original Build Back Better through. He screwed the rail workers union, which is something you very potently covered. So
I thought that the rail worker union ended up being good for them. I thought they ended up getting a lot of what they wanted. No,
I'm not here to pretend like Joe Biden only did good things. I'm trying to do, to the best of my ability, explain what I think are the facts on both sides of the equation. Here are the good things he did, here are the bad things he did, and then people could just make up their own mind as to how they want to proceed in a showdown between Trump or Biden, who they would prefer.
Do you think that Biden is better than Obama?
I'm open to that argument. Again,
she doesn't like Obama though, right?
My fundamental, what purpose does that serve for me?
I think it's everything, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's like, is the person going to do good things that move us in a better direction? Especially, I brought up labor unions a million times, but for me, that's really central, or are they not? And I guess my question for you is, because you were sort of like, all right, let's acknowledge Sure, let's say Biden's 10 times better than Trump.
Why do you keep saying there is only one quote when there's a list of hundreds of quotes of Dems denying elections the last 20 or so years? Just look up list of Dem quotes denying elections. No one is as bad as Trump or the rest of the parties. No, that's bullshit, and that's not true. And when you look up the source of most of those quotes, somebody's saying that like, oh, I don't think Trump is a legitimate president because of Russian propaganda. That's not the same thing as Trump saying the election was like actually stolen. It's just, you're just wrong. We don't have, if you've got to go digging through like obscure quotes that people have made, that's one thing. Look at the behaviors of the parties. Like, look at, where is the Democratic equivalent to January 6th? Where is the Democratic equivalent to telling Americans that the election was fraudulent and fake and we need to suspend the Constitution to go back and do it over again? Where is the Democratic equivalent of mass fucking the Dominion lawsuit because of a major news network claiming that the votes were being flipped on these Hugo Chavez machines? Where is the Democratic equivalent of any of this, of a phone call being made to a state saying, listen, you got to do better at fighting? Like, come on, bro. It's not even remotely similar. Democrats 100% did this after 2016. Okay, dude, never mind. You're beyond hope. Because like in trying to have like, when you're talking about election denialism with conservatives, it's kind of like an educated person arguing with an uneducated person about like academic terms. It reminds me of like when you argue about like, you might be arguing about something specific to your field. Like say for instance, you're having I can't even think of an example. You're having a conversation about like something like really intricate in database design or software engineering, and somebody like goes to the dictionary to look up the definition of like an array or something, right? Or the and you're like, why? I thought we were having like a high level convo. Why are you referring to the dictionary to look up a definition? We're way past that, buddy. This idea of like, well, actually Democrats denied the election just like conservatives did because look at this one quote. It's just not even remotely on the same level. It's not. You can see it in how many people in the party believe the election was actually fraudulent versus the actions taken by the actual lawmakers or the leaders to try to overturn the election, right? On election night, Hillary Clinton said, I lost, good luck, Trump, and left. On election night, Trump tried to claim victory when he was losing. There's like a world of difference between the two. And it tries to say, well, if you look, AOC said that she didn't trust in Donald Trump and blah, 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 blah. So it's actually the same thing. You're delusional.
Like, how much better would he have to be before you're like, okay, it's not just lesser evil. It's not just vote blue no matter who. It's actually worth voting for this person.
He would have had to have done everything that he could have done.
Even Bernie wouldn't have done everything he could have done, in my opinion.
Even in comparison,
what kind of statement is that?
I just think.
Wait a minute. I'm not saying he could have.
I'm not taking a shot at you. I'm just saying I don't think politics. Even somebody like Bernie, who's principled, I don't think he even delivers on everything.
He has to fulfill miracles. I'm not saying he has to accomplish everything that he says he wants to do. I'm saying he has to have done
everything he
could have done.
You can do a lot as president. You can do a lot.
So this is the issue with Biden. Not that he didn't wave a wand and create Medicare for all, because we can all acknowledge that even if it were Bernie Sanders, that would have been an uphill battle. But what I choose to focus on my show, and what I really appreciate about reporting by people like David Sirota and The Lever, is that he exposes the gap between what these people have done and what was literally possible, either because of the nature of executive orders, whether it's walking us through the parliamentarian brouhaha on the $15 minimum wage, because so much of neoliberal democratic politics is obscuring that they really could have done things to make lives better for all of us behind the veneer of insidery Hill jargon, or the idea that the Republicans are the big baddies that couldn't allow us anything to pass. And I believe that my job is to cut through those narratives, to expose to the public that the Democratic Party is making choices. They're not
he could have done Medicare
in the football.
I'll go even further than you. I agree. He could have done Medicare for all with the stroke of a pen. And it was David Dayen over at the American Prospect who laid this out, who said basically, look, under a national emergency, you have the authority under Obamacare to basically do single-payer health care. And they did it, I think, in Libby, Montana, because there was some issue there with health. So he had the ability to do it. So I agree with you. He could have done that. He didn't do that. The only point I was trying to make is that even with somebody like Bernie, I think there would be a little bit of a gap between what he says when he's on the podium and if he were to actually be president. I think a guy like Bernie would deliver on way more of the stuff that he says, because I think he's more honest among government officials. But certainly Biden, there's definitely going to be a gap there between what he says and what he would do. But to be fair, like I said before, I do think Biden kind of ran as a very, I mean, he wasn't as conservative as like Mike Bloomberg in the 2020 race, but he was pretty conservative. He was running as a pretty conservative Democrat, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was, but he still said, we're going to get a $15 minimum wage. We're going to cancel.
I'm not arguing with you. I don't know why you're I'm not arguing with you, Bri.
But Kyle, if you say that he ran as a conservative, what it sounds like you're doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a furtherance of you saying the bar was on the ground. He fulfilled my expectations.
To me, it was, yeah.
But what I'm telling
No, he surpassed my expectations.
But he fulfilled, surpassed, whatever. What I'm saying to you is that you have constructed a bar that's lower than Biden constructed for himself.
No, but I don't agree with that. I was going based off of his commentary at the time.
He literally said and ran on
nothing will fundamentally change.
Nothing will fundamentally change. That's true. Come on. I understand what you're saying. There are some examples to the opposite. I agree with you.
Did he not run on a $15 minimum wage? Yes or no?
He definitely did.
Did he run on canceling all student debt? Yes or no?
We're not making that
I'm not sure about.
He literally did.
I thought it was 10,000.
But hold on. We're not even
$10,000 for all people under 100.
Yeah, I thought it was
that. We're not arguing with you.
Yeah, I'm not trying to argue with you right now.
Couldn't have done more, or that he fulfilled every promise or whatever.
Okay.
But what I want to get from you though is in terms of how you see your role as independent media.
Yeah.
And you said you see it as exposing the gap between like the Democratic Party neoliberal rhetoric and what they actually deliver.
What they could deliver.
What they could deliver. And I do plenty of that as well. And, you know, we feature the lever reporting a lot on Breaking Points, et cetera. But when does it become not just you're exposing the gap?
How do you fight back against this as a conservative? There's 3 to 4 decades of Republican politicians saying dead people vote Democrat, that illegals vote Democrat, and that Democrats rig elections constantly. It's hard to come out and say the election was free and fair when you've been arguing that the election has never been free and fair. Do you think it would be enough to say that 2020 election was no less fair than any? No. I disagree. I don't think Republicans should have been making the claims about like illegal votes or the dead people voting or any other things. I don't think Republicans should have said that either. I think it's bad too. But even that is completely different than what Trump claimed. Even that is completely different than the Trump claims. Trump took it to another level that it goes beyond even Republicans claiming dead people vote. It's a totally bizarre
But you're
world
actually being presenting a dishonest impression of the Biden administration if the positive things that do happen don't get any acknowledgement or coverage.
For one, I think that there is a multi-billion-dollar liberal media sphere whose job it is.
And who your audience.
So you're saying you'd think it was good enough for Republicans to say 2020 is no less fair than any election before? If they really believe that or they said that, I still think it's a dumb claim, but it's way less extreme than the claim Trump is making.
They don't talk about these things. They don't talk about these things.
Your audience doesn't trust
That is not my fault. I have a bunch of poor people giving me $5 a month to give them something that they can't get with their cable subscription.
I'm sorry, but poor people are not subscribers to your podcast, bro. I'm sorry, but the working class American is not listening to you drone on about fucking socialism. Holy shit.
They don't talk about
your
these
audience
things.
doesn't trust
That is not my fault. I have a bunch of poor people giving me $5 a month to give them something that they can't get with their cable subscription. I'm sorry, it is not my job. People are not paying me the bulk of their minimum wage salary to have them.
People are not paying you the bulk of their minimum wage salary?
People are not paying me the bulk of their minimum wage salary to have them have me tell them what a great job Biden did
but
somewhere.
Listen, I'm not attacking. I just genuinely want to understand your view. So you
also,
feel
the media
like
doesn't talk about the good things I mentioned Biden do. Like nobody talks about those.
You feel like
nobody brings those up.
Is this representative of your view? The media doesn't talk about these failings of Democrats, and so they can get the good stuff about Democrats somewhere else. I'm going to just focus on the negative things, the places where they fall short.
Yeah.
I mean, is that so? You would acknowledge that if people are just consuming, for example, your podcast, that they're not getting the complete picture of what's going on.
I think
by definition, you have to say yes to that.
Anybody consuming any one news source, particularly an independent journalist who puts out 1-hour episodes twice a week.
Oh, but you do write things too.
Many
of plenty of content.
Well, sure. I mean, they're certainly not getting full news if they're watching Rising. But
damn. We're right at the end, and she made a spicy comment.
The content that I'm responsible for in terms of picking topics. No, like the episode I'm going to record later today is about AI. It's a niche subject. It's not a news show. So I don't quite understand what the takeaway is from that. Of course, I'm offering, what my goal is to offer, to fill in the holes in what I perceive to be in the media at large.
So I understand that, because that used to be much closer to my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I have shifted my thinking, because I feel like when I only covered basically like Democratic Party sucks, this is their failures, et cetera, it began to create a misleading impression that the Republicans are better, that the Democrats never do anything good. And so it has caused...
Wait, they switched places? Briahna hosts Rising now? Oh, wait, is that true? Oh, my bad. I didn't know that. Oh, okay, so it was. I wondered why they didn't engage on that at all, but that makes sense. Fuck, I don't even know how to find this show.
Me to reevaluate some of the coverage decisions that I would have made in the past. So this is not to, you can cover whatever the hell you want to cover,
because
but I just wanted to understand the lens you were bringing to it, because I think that makes a difference in terms of like what stories you would include and the things that you would focus on.
Well, I think that might be true if you also aren't covering that Republicans are bad, which I do as well. When it's relevant, and especially when it's a coverage of why Republicans are bad that are different than what the mainstream media is doing. So for example, I just had an exchange on my last episode about this, because my guests seem to be largely unaware of the legitimacy of the claims in the Georgia indictment against Trump. And there is a section of the left which takes the position that, well, Trump isn't the real problem, and the media is unfair to Trump, and Trump derangement syndrome is what it is with Rachel Maddow and that. So I'm just not going to listen to any of those kind of arguments. I just don't care.
Right.
And I mean, like, I don't care about it as much as many, many other things, and I think it takes up too much energy. But I also need people to understand that it wasn't just a 1/6 thing. It was this conspiracy to overturn the election that people should take seriously. And we cover those things as they come up. The trucker, whatever it is that comes up. We did a whole Tucker Carlson series last summer. Like,
Obama's gay. Did you know that? I'm just kidding.
What a weird thing to end it on. Okay.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm.
Liken?
Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.